LEGO will not make sets for Deadpool and Wolverine, or anything that is seen as mature, with violence or other stuff. So I'm gonna fix that, starting with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Get your special sock out, nerds.
This film was definitely not made for kids, although a lot have probably seen it. Either way, LEGO will not make sets for it, or figures for that matter. So instead, I went to minifigs.me for their Deadpool and Wolverine figure. And now, I just need to decide what I'm going to build. There are a ton of great scenes from this film, but there is one scene that just called to me. For one, it'll fit into a base plate nicely, and it's a really good scene from the movie. Plus, I only need Deadpool and Wolverine for it. Now, in this scene, there is mainly 2 buildings, but this base plate doesn't have enough room for both full buildings, so we're just gonna cut them both in half. After laying out the sidewalk, I started mapping out the building. Now, instantly, we have a problem. The only pieces I have that are nearly the right color to the building on the left were a bunch of 1x2s, so I'm gonna have to make that work. Next, I added these 2 pillars and a doorway with no door. We'll get to that. Also, those pillars are gonna change, so don't get attached. Originally, I put the same 1x2 plates above those pillars, but I changed them to be darker like the actual scene. Then I moved back to the left building. I added a ton of 1x2s and stacked them. This really didn't take too long, but it was definitely tedious. After building the basic outline, I realized it looked a little bland at the moment, so I decided to change the pillars. And let me know what you think of this idea, because I swapped them to have a plate facing outward to give this build some texture, but I'm not really sure about it. I also didn't like the other building, so I made a couple of those 1x2 plates face out to the side to simulate where the window frames broke. I wanted to start adding a few details, like above this doorway I added an air conditioner, which is there for some reason, I guess air. After re-adding the blue sides, I realized that these outward plates were a mistake, who could guess, because of course they don't line up with the doorway. A bit of stress later, and I noticed that I could just add a 1x4 plate at the top, so yeah, I did that. One thing I forgot about until now was this arch on the top of the right building, and for some reason I could not find a white, tan, or light gray piece that was meant to face down, so I just used this one that was meant to face up, and I don't know, I kind of like it actually. I then finished up the back of the buildings, added this billboard on the left building, the roofs on both buildings, and then it was time for details. The left building has a shelf inside, and there are some details I can't quite make out, so I just added whatever this thing is. Then finalizing the buildings with these windows at the top, more details on the windowsill, and an explosion inside, and lastly, I couldn't find a white door, so I just put this brick built piece in there instead. I think it actually looks better anyway, and while I like the buildings, the whole area looks a little bland still. Luckily, I noticed that there was a crosswalk on the road in the movie, so I added it and this fire hydrant as the final details for this build. And here it is, Deadpool and Wolverine in LEGO. My only problem with this build are those pillars, which look alright, but I think they kind of stand out too much, so I don't know. Also, I think I should have pushed the buildings back a little bit more, because in the movie, Deadpool and Wolverine stand pretty far away from me. Other than that, it's okay, but it's definitely not my favorite. But this next one is a close contender, and that is The Witcher, specifically the show version. Now, originally, I was unsure what to make for this, since I didn't really want to build another building right now, but after a little thought, I realized that he is literally a monster hunter. I felt like it would be a huge waste if I didn't build a monster, so I went looking for one that would be good to build. The Bruxa and Leshen were a little too humanoid in my opinion, and the Basilisk felt like it was just a white Indoraptor, at least in the show. But then I saw it, the very first monster that Geralt fights in the first season, the Kikimora. I love this design. It's creepy, but still somehow looks really cool. Now, I thought that this would also be the easiest to build, since its body is pretty small and its legs are very thin, but I was kind of wrong, and I'll get to that in a second. Now, the Witcher fights the Kikimora in a little pond type of thing, and the scene is extremely gray, so I decided to use a gray plate as the water. And then I added 2 slanted plates on the side. This is supposed to represent the muddy ground nearby. The actual monster took a ton of fidgeting. I built the head first, and just that took me 2 hours, so I did it off camera. I know it looks like a robot, but the reason it took me so long was because I needed a way to attach the legs. The Kikimora has 8 legs in the show, so I'll have to add the rest on the back piece, which looks pretty terrible right now, but don't worry, I fixed it. I temporarily attached it to the plate. I wanted to give some texture to the back, so I added these rock-looking pieces. It took me till this point to realize that I did not have enough space on this thing or pieces to build 8 identical legs, and since I had already attached it to the plate, I realized I could just make it like it had already been killed, and it was laying in the ground. So I did that. I added some slanted pieces on the sides where the legs were supposed to attach. I then noticed that I could just shorten the body as well, and all that was really left were the legs. So I went through some trial and error and ultimately decided to just make the legs attach to the ground around the Kikimora instead of attaching to the body. I tried to make each leg look a little different while keeping the same style, and there we go, that's the Kikimora. So I added Geralt on the side, but I still felt like something was missing, and that was definitely the detail around them. But with these 3 rocks and some bushes, it looked way better. And that's it for The Witcher. To be honest, this was more so a representation of the Kikimora, since I really have no idea how to replicate a monster's look exactly. Either way, I'm extremely happy with this build. It is much smaller, but it is really cool in my opinion. Exactly like minifigs.me, who print on real Lego, making their figures real Lego, just not official printing. This has always interested me, because there will always be things that Lego will never make, such as due to the violence. Or the first figures in this video, Deadpool and Wolverine, from the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. The custom printing on real Lego ensures high quality and compatibility with the rest of your collection. The company isn't even affiliated with Lego. This is the best way to get figures you can't from anywhere else. If you want to take a look at any of the figures from this video, all from minifigs.me, I actually have a discount code that you can find in the description, or you can use this QR code right here. The Witcher might be my favorite build, but this next one was definitely interesting. It is Invincible, and this is the one that I was probably the most excited about because I knew instantly what I wanted to build. One of the most iconic scenes from the show, you may already know what I'm talking about, and that is the train scene. Now, I had seen some builds before that had the train coming towards Invincible and Omni-Man, but I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to build them while they were in the middle of the train and add some blood and gore. I thought this would just look really cool, but instantly I ran into a problem. I don't own a Lego train track, so I would have to make my own. The other problem was every time that I came up with something, it wouldn't work. Either I didn't have enough pieces to do both sides, or the wheels I planned to use didn't fit on the track. This took me so long, but finally I decided to use 4 lance pieces. These didn't completely look like train rails, but they did fit the wheels and they looked alright. So it was onto the train. And again, I had a problem. A 1x4 plate is not the biggest area to build a train from, and this was the biggest wheel attachment I could find. Generally, Lego trains are 1x6 inside and 1x8 if you count the walls. For some reason, I didn't realize that if I wanted to build something on top of the ground plate, it wouldn't be the same width as the plate. Luckily, I decided to build above the wheels, since that is how real trains work. Now I would get 1x6, but counting the walls, the interior would only be a 1x4. I started by building the front of the train, or the back actually, but this side with a window, and somehow after watching this scene multiple times, I never saw the part where it literally shows the front of the train, so I thought it didn't, and I would just have to make it up. Luckily, it ended up not that far off though, and since it doesn't show the back, it could look like this. Probably not though. I wanted to make the other side destroyed as if the rest was blowing off, so I added these walls and made them longer than the plate used for the train's floor. Then the train was finished, and it was time for the gore. I added a couple of exploding people, some excess blood, then I added a conductor in the center of the train, who I'm sure will live through this experience. I may have lied a little bit, we're not done with the train. The last part is the roof. I wanted it to be exploding off, and finally I added Omni-Man and Invincible, and it was done, but it looked terrible. Actually, let me rephrase. I liked how it looked. I know it's not great, but I still liked it, but I had a very specific idea of what I wanted for the thumbnail, which I probably didn't even use. Either way, I broke it apart. My idea was that you would see Omni-Man and Invincible's faces, as well as the gore in front of them, which I know doesn't make much sense because they're going through the train, so stuff would be behind. It doesn't matter. I did it anyway. I really just took off the walls and bent them outward. I added smooth flooring inside, put 2 plane wings on the roof as if it was being torn in half, and finally added back the gore and figures. There we go, 2 versions of the same build. The second one doesn't display as well, but the first one didn't have as much action. If you liked one better, please let me know down below. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about these. Next up, we have some honorable mentions. First, a fake Lego set that Lego edged us for, and that is Toothless. For the first time ever, the real Lego one is dead to me, so I went to fake Lego in spite. But the set is actually really cool, and that is because I think it was stolen. This guy named Joel D3485 has a set that is very close to this, but his was released in 2025, so he could have based his off of this one, and then he would have stolen the design from the fake Lego company. I don't know, but I tried to find the original design. Also, I bought this fake Lego thing since Lego decided that he was the exact same size as everybody else. I know, he's 6 foot, so similar height to the others, but that does not make him the same size. And big figs are how Lego does bigger characters. Speaking of Marvel though, next up is one of my favorite Marvel movies in the last 7 years, and that is Thunderbolts! Minifigs.me just recently made these 3 gorgeous figures consisting of Sentry, US Agent or John Walker, and the Void. The Void is pretty simple, but it's much cheaper than the other figures for that exact reason. Either way, when I was deciding what to build, I ran into a predicament. That is that Sentry was in very few scenes in the movie, I think literally 2, but only one with US Agent, and that was the Avengers Tower, or whatever they're calling it, which kind of works because the Void was actually on the outside of the tower too. So as YouTubers do, I decided to buy the Avengers Tower Lego set. Oh, hold on guys, this is my account. Okay guys, so we're not going to be getting the Avengers Tower. Now I would just build something, but I kind of already used a lot of my pieces and I don't own a ton of windows to build the room where they are in the movie. So I decided to just build the fight, specifically when Sentry crushes US Agent's shield. But there was another problem, of course. This room does not have a lot of furniture, and what it does have is not very close to the fight scene. So I would have to build a really big area to include furniture, or literally anything else. So instead, I'm just going to do a little build. I took this dark gray plate and covered it in light gray plates with no studs. Boom. I actually really like it. I like it better than the Invincible build. Now we still have the Void, but luckily I have an old Avengers Tower set. It's very small, but we only need the outside anyway, so I'll put the Void out here and we're done. Anyway, here the builds are, if you can call them that. I mean, the Avengers Tower is a build, but I built that like years ago. It doesn't really matter. This one was a little lazy, let me be real, but the next one was definitely not. Now onto what I think is my favorite build of the video. We have Naruto! Just to be clear, this is not my favorite show or movie in this video. It just turned out to be one of the best builds in my opinion. This is another one of minifigs.me's newest figures, so hopefully in the future they expand the line. I need Hanada.
Leave me alone!
I mean Sasuke. But for now, we just have Naruto. So this build couldn't really include any fight scene, as I didn't have anyone for him to fight. So I thought, what is something that is just Naruto? And yeah, it was a little obvious, the ramen shop. It was literally the first thing I thought to build. Anyway, let's build that. First, I added this template, as we always do. I think this will be exactly the right size for this though. Next, I added the walls, which start black at the very bottom, then turn tan, and finally they move up to be white. After completing that very small task, I started on the bar inside, which also changes colors as it gets taller. Starting black, then the first shelf is light blue, then red, light blue again for the second larger shelf, then red again, and finally light blue. This time not as a shelf though, just as like the counter, I don't know. Now for the walls, I added bricks with studs on the sides. This was to add some extra detail as there are some pamphlets on the walls, so I added white plates for those. I made this weird looking bowl and I was gonna replace it, but I couldn't find my real white bowl, so that's staying. I hope you like it. Next was under the roof. This was definitely going to be the hardest part since it had to slightly slant, and I kind of got it to work. You'll see. One problem that I was having is that there is no single plate that is exactly the size to fit evenly across the build. What is happening, Mike? Either way, I combined two. Then it was back to the legendary 2x1 light blue pieces. The entire roof is covered in them, so I had to find a way to stretch them across it. After placing them all the way across the two connected plates, I realized I couldn't use this. So I went back and built up the skeleton for the roof. Then I covered it in all the light blue pieces, and after a bunch of tinkering, it was finally covered. I was really happy with how it looked, even right now. So it was time for the worst part of this build, which was the sides. Now, for some reason, I forgot that the wall slanted, and just decided that I would make it work with them flat against the wall. I built the first one off camera just so that I could get an idea of how to do it. I don't know how to explain how I built this though, since I literally just threw stuff together. But here it is, most of the roof done. I'm not gonna lie, it's beautiful. Next was the top of the roof. The only problem was that it kind of has a flap in the show, so I had to get it to go past the top of the front roof piece. If I didn't explain that well, you'll see what I mean. This really only took placing a ton of 2x1s on the plate, and it was done. Here's how it looked, and you can see that the top overlaps the front roof piece. I added these 3 chairs, which I probably should not have done yet, but whatever. Then I tested Naruto, and yeah, it's way too big, but I don't really care, so I'm just gonna shorten it. I broke it in half, removed a ton of pieces, and then put it back together. I like it even more now. It's just so compact and nice. I added a few condiments and chairs for the workers, which I also probably shouldn't have done yet, but finally the last pieces for the build had to be added, and those were the banners that hang in the front of the shop. Now there are 5 of these, but I decided to use 1 2x4 and 2 4x4s. This gives the width of having 5, but only actually has 3 separated banners, making the whole thing a little sturdier. The last touch was a little bush and a rock, and that was it. Completely done. So here it is. And yeah, here all the builds are together. Let me know which one you like the most. And that was the last build for this video. I hope you enjoyed. This took me so long, but I actually had a lot of fun doing it. My favorite build was definitely the Naruto ramen shop. I'm definitely keeping that one displayed. Remember to check out minifigs.me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, but hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned.